Welcome to FoxEncounter. I am your host, Fox. Please consider taking a few seconds to subscribe, drop a like on the video, and share it with your friends. Stay tuned for more content and enjoy the episode. Yeah, I've learned to stay away from aggregate score reviews because then it never matches up with me anyway. I tend to find I always wanted to do like a video on like every single movie that I love that Rotten Tomatoes just hates, which is a lot. There's a lot. There's like so many movies. Like it would be just be way too long. That's probably why I've never done it. So I could go on all day about movies that Rotten Tomatoes thinks suck that I just love.
Yeah, it's weird. Rotten Tomatoes is an interesting conversation because I was just discussing with someone that I understand like what the general sentiment is about it, but it's kind of I find it odd because I think it's now become this big conversation or this big war between critics and the audience. And I think that there's no complexity in that conversation because I saw someone on Twitter, they said something about like, oh, the critics just hate horror movies. And it was something like a little more specific than that, but it was like, the critics just hate horror movies and they don't get them and they don't understand them. Someone responded back and they were like, Pearl X, this movie, that movie, that movie, and that movie. And then like I've been seeing these interesting, and then people say like, don't trust the critical score, trust the audience score. I've also seen that the response to Rotten Tomatoes continuously is, I don't need Rotten Tomatoes to tell me what to think because I can think for myself. I see that all the time. And so here's what I think about when it comes to film criticism, because I don't know the ins and outs of Rotten Tomatoes. I've always looked at it's something I've just kind of read throughout the years, but I enjoy just hearing reviews anywhere. So whether it's there, whether it's what is it called? Is it Metacritic? Forums, back when IMDb still had the forums. I liked hearing, what people just had to say or the crazy conversations as a result of that. So for me, it's just like, I read and I move on. That's your perspective. Same thing with YouTube. It's like one perspective and then moving on. But I recognize now that knowing a little bit more about, some reviewers are paid, some are older and out of touch, some have archaic views, some have these very constrained views of what cinema is. I recognize all of that, but I also think that it's kind of been upheld as the enemy of the common people, and I don't know how we got there because like I said, I see all the time because I see it's weird because I see plenty of reviews in the crit. I don't know if they've just become like the monolith now, and I get why, but it's weird because I've seen people just like you and me having the same opinions as critics, but then they are, and I don't know, it's like they're anti-critic, but then the way that they share their thoughts or share their views, I'm like, well, is it so far away? And then I've seen where people say that critics are out of touch and they never know what they're talking about. And it's like, well, if everyone loved Coco or Into the Spider-Verse, I'm like, is the conversation still accurate or is it not? And then with like I said, people saying like, because I just saw a tweet and it was just like, I don't need effing Rotten Tomatoes to tell me what to think because I'm my own person. I know how to think for myself. And I was kind of like, I feel like I'm not sure how Rotten Tomatoes became the barometer of free thought. I just think it's such a bizarre, I feel like that's such a bizarre platform to use. Because I kind of feel like taking Rotten Tomatoes out of the equation, I feel like, should independent thought and sense of self and identity, shouldn't that already be established, whether Rotten Tomatoes exists or not? I just think it's interesting, like how volatile the response is to it. And like I said, I understand like the dynamics of it that people find maybe problematic or troubling, but I feel like it's weird that it comes down to a matter of being told what to think. And the same people who don't ascribe to it will still continuously be vocal about it when it's just like anything I don't have an interest in, I don't give my interest and I don't give my time. But as soon as someone makes this is the score, it's like, no, 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 no. And it's like, you would think that your frustration with this would steer you in another direction, yet here you are every single time. So yeah, so I find Rotten Tomatoes to be such an interesting topic, more so because of the response that it garners. And it's not to suggest that it's anything infallible, but it's just I see a lot, and maybe because I'm on Twitter, and Twitter is land of the I don't know, the cuckoos. So I don't know.
Yeah. It's a minefield.
Yes, it is.
I was on Twitter for like a day and I was like, yeah, no, I'm good.
Yeah.
But yeah, when it comes to like Rotten Tomatoes, I've always had my issues with it just because I'm like, I don't understand. I really don't understand this. And like I said, I've actually known like having my run-ins with like a lot of those movie critics who are actually like verified on there, and knowing how some of them like will put inaccurate reviews on there sometimes. I was just like,
Right.
I'm good. I can't rock with this. This is kind of weird. And so like, but yeah, I don't really pay it much attention. But I always find it funny when someone will be like, oh, well, you know, on Rotten Tomatoes, and I'm just like, you lost me. As soon as you said Rotten Tomatoes, you lost me. Like, I'm not going to pay attention anymore. Just because it's like, it's such a gray area. Like, I don't know if you're using that as like the end all be all of what's good, or if you're using it as like a medium to be like, okay, this is what the general consensus is. So I'm just like, yeah, you lost me. Like, I can't be on board with this because I don't know where you're coming from.
Bye, bitch.
But yeah, man, thanks for coming on. I know we've been trying to get something going on, and I'm glad it was this, because then, you know, I get to know you on a better level, and, you know, we get to have like some really good conversation.
Yeah, no, definitely. It's been no, it's been great. We've, like I said, we've been and I wish I could remember what the very first, well, I mean, I said what it was for you, but like I'm just like kind of trying to trace back what like the first initial conversations and like comments in here and there. I have to see if I can figure that out. But yeah, but even stuff like the IG stories, little things here and there, like it's been enjoyable just chatting. And of course, like you recognizing the greatness that is the Outlander theme song, like of course, you know. So I always appreciate things like that.
We'll have to do a whole segment on like Outlander one day, because I think the series is almost over. So
yes, and maybe you can convince me to get back on board, because I was hurt about certain things that happened.
Yeah, man, that shows like an emotional roller coaster. That's like,
Oof.
I know a lot of people will say that about like a lot of like dramas and stuff, like, but I think like Outlander is like the first, like pretty much like the only show that I'm like emotionally invested in, whereas everything else I'm just like, oh yeah, it's cool, you know, or like, oh, I like this is entertaining. But like, I think Outlander is like one of those only ones that I'm invested in it emotionally.
Yeah, Outlander, and I maybe there are probably a few others, but I think Outlander has the only like finale I can think of. That season one finale, like I have never cried because I was angry. And I think you know what I'm talking about. That was some. I don't think I've ever like really like, you know, we see villains and we see evil characters, but like that to me was like my response to that, it was like, like I was literally traumatized by all that. That I don't think any character is ever coming close, because that was some next level stuff for me. And I mean, I was so angry and I was so upset. I'm like, how? Like, yeah. But it's the source material. I know it's a part, but and I give credit to the actors, because like I don't know how you depict that level of depravity. You know, I mean, they're professional. I'm just saying, but that's a lot to deal with.
Yeah, I think that's kind of what keeps me going with the show, is that like I honestly never know what's gonna happen, and there are things that like, I mean I kind of seen it with like Game of Thrones, where there's like some really foul stuff that goes on, and you're just like, oh. But like with Outlander, it's done in a way where I guess it's like it's pretty unexpected, and when it does happen, you're just like, whoa. And then what I liked about the show so much is that when it continues that, everything that happens, like for me personally, like there's some things in Game of Thrones where I'm like, that was just in there just for like shock value.
Right,
but
exactly.
What I loved about Outlander and why I thought that these things happen and why they're so important is because those things have carried on pretty much all the way through the entire series. Like if anything happens, it's going to carry on, and it's happening for a reason, and it's important to the story overall. And that's why when like things like that happen, and I'm just like, whoa, okay, but at least it's going somewhere. It has a purpose. Whereas a lot of other shows that I've seen where like really crazy things happen, I'm like, oh, okay, that happened, and then it just never gets brought up again or whatever. I'm just like, all right, so that just happened just to happen.
Yeah. And I really don't respond well to shock value for the sake of shock value, which is also why, although I appreciated aspects of Babylon, I'm like, that whole sequence in the first 10 minutes, I'm just like, you do know, like, I know you're doing this simply because people are going to talk about the fact that this elephant did this and this woman did this on this man's face. And I was like, like it's not necessary. And I get it. You can show the excess of Hollywood and, depravity.
What the hell is wrong with you, you sick bastard?
Like I get that part, but it didn't ring true to me. It didn't feel like it didn't feel like this is purposeful. It felt like shock. Oh my gosh, they're going to talk about it. And I can always feel that. And I just don't care for that. But with Outlander, I didn't feel that. It all felt very earned because I'll tell you, I mean, there were so many moments we can talk about, but I'll tell you one of the biggest, and again, like this was like such a visceral reaction for me. It's that moment where I'm thinking Claire is having this breakthrough with Blackjack Randall, and she's saying this and this, and I guess I don't even think I don't know if she says it, but it's almost like, you're a good man, and I know you understand, and you'll make sense of this, and you'll make this right. And I'm kind of thinking like, whoa, like, okay, maybe we finally are turning this around. And when I tell you, like, I don't know how, but I was like, I really like. I mean, like the gas that came out of my mouth, and like I really like kind of hunched over, like I know that did not like I mean I was speechless. I was like, this man did not just, and then her gasping to like, ooh, like yeah. And I say that because that was such a small kind of like, we're in between like these big plot things that are happening, and we're thinking like, oh, we're on to the next thing, and we'll figure some way out, or maybe he'll say something mean, or maybe like, yeah, no, you're wrong. But to do that, oh yeah, that was next level for me.
All right, man. Yeah, like I said, this was fun. Glad we got to do this. I'm gonna let you go because I'm pretty sure it's probably kind of late there now.
Yeah, no getting there.
Yeah.
But anytime you want to chat or anything that kind of comes up later on or whatever, because I know we still got to do like this. I don't know if it's cinematography or just like visual aesthetics, but anything like that further down the road, I'm down for whatever. So
yeah, for sure. That one I just gotta I was thinking about that the other day, just kind of putting more stuff to the list on there. I just gotta like rewatch a lot of stuff too to make sure like that's exactly what I was going for in the topic. Yeah, that's what I got to do. Just rewatch a lot of stuff.
You don't have to tell me, but I'm curious as to what you'll make. So clue me in on that later.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. Have a good one.
Good night. You too.